is happening today? I am recording this on the 4th of July, and I hope that you are having a great yet safe holiday. Man, you don't even know how dangerous people can get. Maybe you do know. I'll tell you what, though. We used to make it a yearly tradition to get as many half sticks as we can. Now, over the years, they've gained all sorts of monikers, called them pineapples, called them ash cans, blockbusters, right? All kinds of stuff. I used to get my hands on as many of those as I could. I usually get like 10. Well, I like to call them blockbusters. That's my thing. Or maybe pineapples. So I used to think quarter sticks were pineapples, though, right? Blockbusters were half sticks. So I'd get as many pineapples and half sticks, usually about 10 or a dozen of those. And then I'd get this bag of M80s. Remember M80s? Get like 25, 50 of those. And I would like to hang out where I grew up. We grew up by this river called the Rockaway River. And I used to love lighting M80s and throwing them in the water. If I ever saw my son, or daughter for that matter, light an M80 in their hand, they would wake up the next day. They have to be taught a lesson. I can't have this. But what we used to do, we used to throw them in the... I'd like to see M80s blow up in the air. So how do you do that? Right? How do you have to light it and you have to time it. So you have to stare up this thing with a fuse, and you trust that the fuse is going to be timed. And we'd throw it in the air, and boom, in the air. Sheesh. I'll tell you. I have a video up on my Full-Time Coaster Tour page of my 2010 and another video of my 2011 fireworks stash. Let me just put it this way. I was living in Florida. Florida, fireworks are legal in Florida. And I ordered 1,875 pounds of fireworks. That's almost a ton of gunpowder and explosives. It got shipped down to me in a FedEx 18-wheeler. Not like the little FedEx truck guy you see driving around. Not him. It was an 18-wheeler. It had to come to my business. And it wasn't my business. It was a detox that I worked at. So this big FedEx 18-wheeler pulls up in front of this detox. You got 24 people in there detoxing from one substance or another. And the 18-wheeler pulls up, and the guy he wheels up these pallets, these shrink-wrapped pallets, 5 feet high. And he starts giving them to me. The FedEx guy said, "Is this legal?" I said, "You brought it here. Now's not the time for that kind of a question, man. That's in the past. We're way past that question." So I unloaded all these my boss looked at me and said, "What is the matter with you?" I don't know. I don't know. I'm not used to fireworks being legal. So 1,875 pounds worth of fireworks. That is the 2010 stash. Take a look. It's out of control. So that's the kind of things that I would do. So I hope, as I digress here, I hope that you are having a safe 4th of July. By the time I release this, it will be the 5th of July, but that's my feeling today. I hope you're having a safe 4th. I hope you're celebrating it properly, realizing what we really have in this country. We're not each other's enemies, guys. Don't let them make you think that. We all want the same things, okay? Don't let them tell you we are enemies. We're not. We are the American people. It's the greatest country ever created. Changed the world, as we know. And we're very, very fortunate to live here. And I am personally grateful. I love this country. And I love you guys. And I couldn't be in a better mood. Because, guys, on today's show, I have the distinct pleasure to have interviewed, and I'll show you, one of my absolute favorite Jets podcasters. And it's not like he's my favorite because, he's a nice guy or anything like this. Is a guy that I've been listening to for years, reading his stuff on different Jets mediums, Jet Press, and some other places. He now writes for Heavy.com. He's the Jet guy for them. But his podcast is one of the reasons, and then obviously Max Man on Jetnation, One of the reasons that I even entertained ever doing this, that I could, kind of put my stuff out there. And his name is Paul Esden Jr., better known as Boy Green. He is on this show. We spent a nice chunk of time together just a little while ago to be able to share with you. And it's fun. It's great. The guy's just such a knowledgeable Jets fan and beat guy. And I just love talking to him. So I have that for you today. But before we get into that, I want to just remind you of a couple short things. One, don't forget to like and subscribe in this video. Don't forget to subscribe, guys. It's such a big deal. Hit the little red button on the YouTube page. It makes a world of difference for me, and I do appreciate it. On an even deeper level, I did create my Patreon page. I have a few people that have already signed up. We have 3 tiers. You can support this channel and support what I'm doing, and we can have an even deeper level of connection. $5 tier, $10 tier, and a $20 tier, and a $1 million tier, which it doesn't say that on there, but just if you want to be a part of that tier, just contact me. We'll take care of that in short order for you. If you want to be a part of the $1 million tier, it will come with a t-shirt and a massage from good old-fashioned Green Bean. I got very strong thumbs. That's what I'll do that for you, I promise. I promise. I'll even do that for the $100,000 tier. Why not, right? Why not? So let's get into a few cool tidbits that we have today for you. The New York Jets. I'm not even going to spend a lot of time on it because I want to get right to Boy Green's interview. But isn't this the funniest thing? This is the funniest thing, and it shows the inconsistencies of the people out there who are supposed to know stuff and who cover the Jets. Number one, a couple weeks ago, the Jets were named one of the top 3 most improved teams in the NFL. I think it was top 5. We were one of the top 5 most improved NFL rosters going into the 2021 season. This is Pro Football Focus. The guys who are supposed to know things, we all refer to their numbers and, all their statistics. Oh, PFF has a rating of 216 points /96.4. You know what that means? You can't sign that guy. He doesn't deserve that contract. So we all refer to their stuff, all their statistics, and they're supposed to know something. They say, hey, Jets fans, guess what? You have one of the top 5 most improved rosters in the entire NFL. Yeah, finally somebody's seeing what's going on over here in Jets land. Then they come out a couple days ago, same company, PFF. Remember, they're supposed to know stuff. Jets are the 3rd worst roster in the NFL. Even below the Jacksonville Jaguars, everybody. Okay? So I know Trevor Lawrence. I get it. But come on, dude. So how does an organization say you are one of the top 5 most improved rosters in the NFL, yet you are the 3rd worst team in the NFL? It just doesn't, for mathematical people, which I clearly am not. But this is simple arithmetic here, man. It doesn't seem to work for me. They told me 2 + 2 is 9. I don't get it. I want to trust them, but I can't because I know 2 + 2 isn't 9. I just know it. So what that would insinuate is that we were so bad, that we've improved better than, 28 teams, and we're still the 3rd worst roster in the world, in the league. It doesn't make sense. Is that what you're saying? So this is the same organization. What I look at this as is a direct contradiction. That's what it is. So clearly these are, look, I'm not going to tell you I know because I'll be real honest. I don't read these guys. I don't read. I look at some headlines. I talk to people. Every now and then an article will interest me. This stuff, I don't look at ESPN power rankings. I don't care about this stuff. Every week they change it because something happened. Whatever. I know what I see. I don't need them to tell me what I see. But so I don't know if this was 2 separate writers and they just don't know what the other guys are doing in the same organization, or if it's the same guy and he just knows what he's doing, which is trying to poke us in the ribs to get us pissed, like every other beat writer around the country does. That's what they do to us. You know this already, right? You know what this really is. But the funniest part is, it's not even that. I'm not done. They came out, I think it was yesterday. It might even been today for all I know. and they said that Mark Sanchez was the worst draft pick since 2006. Now, again, I didn't read it. I just saw it. I saw some people talking about it. I look more at comments. I'm more interested in what you guys have to say, quite frankly. I go to Jetnation. I see what's going on over there. That's what I like. I don't care what Rich Samini or Ron Monsoon or whatever the fuck these guys are. I don't care. You know? So even if it's just the Jets, and I don't know if that's what they were saying, worst Jets draft pick, which it still doesn't make sense to me. But the worst draft pick, so let's just assume it's Jets, because dude, there's no way Mark Sanchez is the worst draft pick since 2006, even first round. But let's just say it's the Jets. It might even be what it is. I don't know. But let's say it is. So he's the worst Jets draft pick. And they even mentioned Dee Milliner, Vernon Golston, guys that never did anything. So Mark Sanchez was the 5th overall pick, if I remember correctly. We traded up some baloney to get him. We didn't give up much, man. We gave Brett Ratliff. We gave up Chancey Stuckey, right? And a couple draft picks. Nothing by today's standards that would ever allow you to move up, 12 spots. Or I think we were at 17 and we moved up to pick number 5. Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, please, in the comments. I don't remember the specifics of that. But we moved up a nice clip. And we drafted Mark Sanchez. Now, Mark Sanchez went on. And I'm not a Sanchez supporter, defender. I'm none of those things. But I'm a realist. I'm objective. Mark Sanchez came in and was the quarterback of 2 teams that went to the AFC Championship game. All right? 2 separate teams, 2 separate years. Now, I'll remind you, Mark Sanchez beat both Tom Brady in the playoffs. He also beat Peyton Manning in the playoffs. He also beat Phillip Rivers in the playoffs. And the second year, just so we know, that 2010 AFC Championship game, Mark Sanchez went through Indianapolis. That was Peyton Manning's last game as a Colt. Peyton Manning's last game as a Colt was a loss to the Mark Sanchez-led Jets. Just so we know what we're talking about here. Then he went up to New England, the team who in the last time we played beat us like 45-3, if I remember correctly. We went into New England. They were the odds-on favorite to win the Super Bowl that year. After we just stomped Peyton Manning's face in Indianapolis, went up to New England and beat the Tom Brady-led Patriots. Remember Sean Green taking a nap in the end zone, all that jazz? Okay. A guy who did that alone, and he played for a few more years for us. 2011 we almost made the playoffs. We didn't, but we almost did. And that was with a severely diminished team. They tore it apart. Remember, Brad Smith, Sean Ellis, Jericho Cotchery, Braylon Edwards, all those guys, gone. Gone. They brought in a bunch of punks, Derek Mason, Plaxico Burress. They upgraded and put a C on the chest of Santonio Holmes, who in the last game of the year, my son's first Jets game ever in Miami, got into a physical altercation in the huddle. This is what Sanchez was dealing with. Let's be real here. So he goes to the AFC Championship game 2 years in a row. He almost makes the playoffs the next year, and then he played another year. And then, you know what I mean? So he had 4 years, I think, maybe 5 years of production of NFL play. And then he was a backup, won some games for the Eagles and stuff like that. How in the hell is he a worse draft pick than the number 6 overall pick, Vernon Golston, who quite literally never got a sack, which is what he was drafted to do? What about Dee Milliner? He's a number 9 overall pick. We just traded Revis. He was Revis's replacement. He played a handful of games in his entire career. He was gone in his 3rd year. Gone. What about Quentin Coples? What about all these? I mean, dude, there are so many draft picks that were worse than Mark Sanchez. You could even make the argument, if you look at situations, maybe not, like Leo and Quinnen, because of the team that we already had. You don't, drafting a guy to plug into the strongest unit on the team. You could argue that Leo was a worse draft pick than Mark Sanchez. because we didn't need him. Don't forget, we had Sheldon Richardson, Snacks Harrison, and Muhammad Wilkerson before his whatever change of heart that guy had. Sheldon Richardson, Snacks Harrison, Wilkerson. Our line was good. And Copels, I think. 3 of those guys were first-round picks. It's crazy. So you could make the argument. I don't think it would stand, but you could make the argument that Leo was a worse pick. So anyway, dude, how in the hell is Mark Sanchez? So, and this is Pro Football Focus. These are the guys who are supposed to know stuff. Aren't they supposed to be math guys? Aren't they supposed to be able to look and say, well, Mark Sanchez, 2 AFC championship games, Vernon Golston, nothing. Nothing. And I mean nothing. 2 head coaches, nothing. Mangini, nothing. Rex Ryan, nothing. So anyway, here's what I want to say about Pro Football Focus. Shut up already. Do your numbers, okay? Do your numbers. Tell us what your PFF score for the backup offensive lineman on the Los Angeles or Las Vegas Raiders is, so we can argue about it with our friends, and shut up with everything else because you guys don't know what you're talking about. That's my thoughts on PFF. Shut your face already. Nobody cares. You're dumb. Either get your house in order and be consistent with your writing, or just stop it. So that's that. That's all I got to say. Let me know what you want to talk about in the comments, how you see it. Am I wrong here? Am I? It's like these guys. I don't know. Just keep doing your deductions with your mathematical equations and leave everything else to someone else. Because I don't know what you're talking about. Doesn't make sense. So, good news. Good news. The Jets have decided to practice against the Green Bay Packers 2 times before their preseason game. So the way I look at that, there's essentially 3 preseason type of situations going on here, man. This is as cool gets. Now, why the Green Bay Packers? Well, number 1, we're playing them, right? There's that. It's probably pretty key. But number 2, you got the Saleh-LaFleur connection. You got the little triad. You got LaFleur's best buddy is Robert Saleh, the head coach of the Packers, and then his little brother is our offensive coordinator. So this makes a world of sense. The lines of communication are very wide, clear, and open. The channels are open between these 2 organizations. So I think it's super cool, man. We're maximizing an opportunity, and I couldn't love it more. Going into the preseason game, the preseason game is going to be kind of the culmination of 3 days of hanging out together, getting to see what other players offer you. Let's see what Bryce Hall does with Devontae Adams running around. You know what I mean? Well, let's see if Rodgers is up there. We don't know. We don't know what it's going to look like. But it's so incredibly cool, and I love that they're doing it. Now, we haven't done this in a while. Anybody remember why? Anybody remember why we're not practicing against other teams so much anymore? Remember the fist fight over in Washington? With the Washington, then the Redskins, remember? We just signed Spencer Long, and there was the Terrell Pryor baloney. They didn't like Terrell Pryor. Remember that? And a whole bunch of fans almost got hit. They were like fans hanging out on the side of the field, and they almost got beat up, and girls were running. Remember that? Ever since then, it was like, let's not do that anymore. And Todd Bowles, the Todd Bowles-led Jets, going into the Washington side of this world and get into a fist fight. So I'm glad that we put that behind us, that our ownership isn't spooked by whatever problems came from that. You know there were issues. Definitely. Guarantee there was more than one little lawsuit or something. Somebody's toe hurts. Something. And I don't know if anybody got really hurt. If they did, then whatever. But, you know, there was definitely some complaints and all that sort of stuff. So the ownership might not want to do it. They just might be like, hey, man, it's not worth it. I don't care. But Joe Douglas, Robert Saleh thought it was worth it. They got it done, and we're going to be practicing against the Green Bay Packers on the August 18th and 19th, and then our preseason game is August 21st, which is just so neat, man. They get a couple days to kind of chill, and then they go back and they play like a real game against each other. And I want to make this clear too. I want to say it out loud. I want to scream it loud and proud from the rafters. I am happy preseason is back. Be careful what you wish for, you bunch of grumpkins. Everybody's, they should just get rid of the preseason. Preseason sucks. No, it doesn't. Let me tell you something. Last year, I was wishing for some preseason football, man. Now, me personally, I love preseason. I do. I think Boy Green says he does, too, in this interview. I love preseason. I love watching guys that are on the fringe of the roster trying to do everything they can. They have 4 opportunities, 4 plays that are on the field, and they're trying to show the coaches something. I love that stuff. Every now and then, man. Remember when Atari Bigby was trying to be a Jet? You remember that? He had 2 interceptions in a preseason game. And like a bunch of passes defensed. He was lit it up. He was everywhere. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, look at this guy, Atari Bigby. And we cut him. He went to Green Bay and he had a great career. He has a very solid career at that. That's who we were. So I like to see guys try really hard to make the roster. I get psyched for it. I'm rooting for them. And those are the guys I'm interested in. You know, obviously right now we have a young roster, so I'm very interested in the whole team. Of course, I always am. But I really like a focus, like in that 3rd and 4th quarter, like the 3rd game, 4th game. I know there's no 4th game this year. It's only 3 games right now. But I'm laser focused. Everybody, who the hell's that guy? John Bryce running around. He's a defensive end. Like, who the hell's that? Number 6. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I love it. I know his whole history and everything. I know what school he played for. I love it. So I'm happy it's back, and I want you to know I'm a big fan of the preseason. I hope it never goes anywhere. And look, we saw last year how difficult it was for the rookies with no training camp, no preseason. Let's get a training camp. Let's get a preseason. Let's see what these guys can do. I'm happy it's back, and I love what the Jets are doing with the Green Bay Packers, and I love that it's a team that we don't know very well. We don't play Green Bay often, so this is good. This is very, very good, man. I'm psyched about it. I think it's a great move, and I'm glad that the Jets are doing it. So PFF, Green Bay Packers. Now, I'm going to say this for a quick second, then we're going to move into the interview. I saw something on the internet, I think it was Instagram, that the Jets had sent a petition to the NFL in regards to Joe Klecko being inducted into the Hall of Fame. Now, I can't seem to find the details on that, or I was going to make the whole show about that. But I only saw this one blurb, so I'm going to reach out and ask you guys, do any of you know where that story came from? Because I want to do a whole expose on it, man. It was music to my ears. I think the Jets should put a unified front together and say, this is baloney. The guy needs to be in the hall. Whatever issues you have with him, let's put him on the table. Let's discuss them, and let's see what's really going on here, because it's crap. Okay? And I want this to be true. So if you guys know where it is, please get it to me. Let me know if I read some joke April Fool's article or something. Just please help me out with that one. If it's true, I'm going to make a video on it right quick, and we'll deconstruct and talk about that. So I hope it's true. I know most of you, probably damn near 100% of you, are in the same boat wanting Joe Klecko to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. So let me know what you think there. Let me know if you can find that story for me. I couldn't find it. I scoured first and second page of Google today. Scoured! 2 pages. When's the last time you clicked on the second page of Google? Come on. There's like 7,000 pages. Can you imagine clicking on page 584 and seeing what's there? I went to page 2 today. It wasn't there. So that all leading me up to this. I am psyched. I know you're going to enjoy this one. It was a great time. Again, I'm honored. I feel privileged and very, very fortunate to have had the time with Boy Green, Paul Esden Jr., the Jet Zone podcast extraordinaire himself. We're going to get into it right now. Enjoy the interview with Boy Green. So like I promised everybody, this is Green Bean, and with me today is literally one of my absolute favorite Jets content creators, beat writers. He has so many titles, but this is Boy Green, Paul Esden Jr. He's here live in the flesh. I couldn't be happier to have you here. So how you doing, man? Thanks for coming on the show.
People don't even know. Maybe they do know, but we've been trying to organize this collab forever. Green Bean, Boy Green, the fans have been chirping for it. They've been craving it, and finally we can quench their thirst. So I'm just so happy we're able to connect the dots here, and I'm humbled by your words. That means the world. From a fellow Jets guy, a guy that I respect in the business, in the world, and everything. And, hey, man, you're one of the OGs. I say it to everybody. I don't just say that because I'm on the show. When other people ask me, I'm like, Green Bean, man. So I'm honored and humbled to be here.
Well, that's awesome. And I feel the same way about you. And that'll lead me into my first question with you. If you don't mind, I had a couple of questions about the man that is with me here today. But it's funny, Paul, because, when I was first entertaining doing this, I've been Green Bean for a while, but I haven't been a content creator. And one of the things that you actually put out there is that you are a Jets fan that covers the Jets. And you're really unabashed. You put that out there. And that was one of the things that made me realize that I could do this as well. So what was the kind of the inspiration? Like, how did you break through the fear of having a non-regional dialect, but also applying to sports? How did you get past that to be able to do what you do right now?
It was a pivotal moment, and I have 2 degrees. I went to Cayuga Community College, that's in Auburn, here in New York, and I went there and got my hands in TV and radio to do sports broadcasting. And then I went to SUNY Oswego to get my bachelor's degree. And for some people who may not know that university, but a lot of the famous alum are guys like Al Roker that people know, Linda Cohn, right, who's the longest running in SportsCenter history. And then the other guy that I'm going to point out is Steve Levy, who some people may know, some people may not know. He's a Jets fan. And and of course, he's the voice of Monday Night Football now. And when I was back in college, I'd rather not say I'm getting up there in age, but like 7 years ago-ish, somewhere in that ballpark, Steve Levy came back to the college and did this whole thing where he spoke to all the people that were there and did a seminar and everything. And then after, you could come up with questions and autographs, pictures, whatever you wanted. But I got a picture with him. But the big thing for me was the advice, because I'm like, man, I'm right here on the precipice. I'm like, I really want to pursue media because I didn't make it in the NFL. So I'm like, that's too bad. They weren't. Yeah. Like I said, I always make this joke. They weren't looking for a 5'2" running back. So I said, if I can't do the sport, I'd love to talk about it. And as a diehard Jets fan, I was struggling because the media world that I was viewing, that lens from college, was there was no fans. You're just right. A guy. Like, you're doing a job. If you're a SportsCenter anchor, you're just unbiased, just reading the news, saying your report, and getting out of there. So I was trying to figure out, man, I'm a diehard Jets fan, and I don't know what to do with it. And I spoke to Steve Levy after the seminar, and he said, hey, man, you got to get rid of that. You can't be a Jets fan. You can't do it. Wow. That's cool that you're a Jets fan, but come on, basically grow up. Okay, I'm a Jets fan, but you never hear about it unless, a certain story or this or that. And obviously, Steve Levy's had a remarkable career. And I took his words, and I thought about it for a while, and I was just kind of looking off into the ocean. I said, you know what, screw that. I'm going to be my own man. I'm going to figure it out. I don't want to hide being a Jets fan. I am a Jets fan. I'm like, you know what, I think that what makes me different. So while people's, again, concern and criticism, I got it a lot early in my career, is when I embraced the Jets thing, is that people were yipping at me, come on, a Jets fan, come on, be a sports anchor, reporter, whatever you are, because again, also my day job, I do sports talk radio. And I just thought, quite frankly, and my answer when people questioned it was, I said, I'm so close to the sun that I don't think I have Jets color glasses on. I think I can identify an issue better than anyone else because I'm a fan. The quarterbacks suck. I am concerned about the quarterbacks. I'm like, yes, that's an issue. But when something good is happening, I feel like I can clearly point out when something great happening. Those AFC Championship runs, I'm on the table, pounding my chest, throwing myself all over the place. I just feel like it's the perfect position. And it prior to me, I'm not trying to say I'm the only trailblazer guy that's ever done it. I don't know. I don't know the history books, but it felt like to me the move I had to make to just embrace who I am, not pretend, not hide in a closet, pretend I'm someone else. I'm a diehard Jets fan, and I cover the team, and that's a bit unique, and I feel like that's what makes me me.
Yeah, man, that's such a great story. I didn't hear that story. So it's really cool to hear that end of it. Because like, look, you're getting this advice, and that's the thing. Even though I wasn't in the position to receive that advice, I had those same thoughts that there was a confining sort of boundary system in place, and it's like, well, this is kind of who I am, and I didn't see any real light. And honestly, man, you're one of the guys that made me realize that, hey, this is kind of okay. This is okay to do this. And for me, you are one of the trailblazers. And that's why it's so cool to have you on here, man. And I think you sharing that story is super cool, man. And it takes guts to be able to get and receive advice from somebody that you respect and who has all the backup, all the accomplishments to back it up, and to be able to say, no, I'm going to do what I want to do anyway in face of that advice. You know what I mean?
A lot of people call me stupid. I'm going to be honest. Because again, I said it to myself because again, it was literally just like an epiphany of me just standing there, just looking at the water. I heard from what he said, and then he left, and I just sat there, just looking out at the water as we go, and I'm just like, man, feels like a pivotal moment in my life of going this way or that way. It was a fork in the path of what I was going to try to pursue. And then I just said, screw it, I'm going to go chase this. And then when I told other people what I plan on doing, they're like, you're an idiot. And I'm like,
yeah, I bet.
Steve Levy. Like, who the hell are you? Paul Esden? Who the heck are you? Like, come on, man. It's Steve Levy. There's a reason he went there. Follow the path that's there. And to me, I'm like, you know what? What I would rather do is and this is extreme, but live or die, I'd rather die with the decision I made, picking my own path and just following a path that's been walked on 1,000 times. Maybe I'm going to fail. Obviously, I had no idea at the time whether it was going to work or not, or whether people would eventually resonate with it or relate to it. But I said, you know what? I just want to die on my own path, and when I die on that, that's on me. And at the end of the day, that was something I was comfortable with.
Yeah, and I love it, and I respect the hell out of it, man. I really, really do. Because, again, you don't realize who you're affecting out there. You know what I mean? There's a little old bearded man somewhere sitting alone in an RV like, hey, I like this guy. That's kind of, you never know, man. So, well, look, I appreciate you sharing that. I want to break into some Jets. And our first question today is going to really show anyone watching this how long we've really been trying to get together. So, Paul, I really want to know, how did you feel about last week's draft?
Yeah. That's awesome. See, again, to the fan. That just hits up. And now it's funny because now I don't know. Maybe it will be the same answer as it was here, in July. But the fact, that's just hilarious. That the fact of the matter is, when you look at the draft, 2 was kind of boring. If I'm going to be, I mean, I don't know if that's the right word. Maybe that's too over the top, but it was just kind of boring because we were waiting there, and it felt like for basically a month and a half, we knew who the guy was. So that was kind of past the biscuits. And it's not supposed to be that. Like for Sam Darnold, for me anyway, it wasn't like that because I had no idea that Sam Darnold was going to be the guy, and someone had to hear me on me, and to get that raw reaction of, oh my God, Sam Darnold. This time it was Zach Wilson. All right, great guys, handshake guy, yes, very nice. Zach Wilson, great. So that one was just kind of meh. But then the AVT one, because rarely and I don't know if this is true, but rarely do I think Jet fans or any fan base goes into a draft, like the first round, you have 2 first-round picks, you're like, I want this guy and this guy, and then that happens. So Zach Wilson, okay, number 2 pick, okay, that's going to happen, but I wanted Elijah Vera Tucker. I made that perfectly and abundantly clear. Whether it was going to happen or not, that's why I said it was a dream scenario. 23, I'm like, yeah, boy, is there any chance he falls? I mean, I tried to convince fans that it was possible, but to myself, I'm like, let's have the math of how this gets to that. I wasn't sure, but that to me was just over the draft was great. We could go through any number of picks because, I was excited about a lot of them. But I was excited about AVT over the top. He was the most excited I was about a pick. And quite frankly, just the strategy. Every offensive player, quarterback, okay. Offensive lineman, okay. Elijah Moore, whoa, come on. Even though he was on the board, I didn't think the Jets were going to do it. I'm like, come on.
Yeah, I didn't either. For real.
They're going to pick something else. So that to me was like, whoa. And then Michael Carter, I'm like, come on. At this point, it's just a joke. 4 straight offensive players. We as Jet fans know that never happens.
It never happens. And that's the thing. That's really a good. I like how you put that because you're so right. The Sam Darnold draft, we thought we were going to get one of Baker Mayfield, and then it was either Josh Rosen or Josh Allen. Like we didn't think in a million years that Sam Darnold was going to slip. And then the Giants could have also taken a quarterback. So the fact that, the number one prospect in the draft slid to us, it was very exciting. The Zach Wilson thing, not so much. Guys like myself tried to keep the excitement going with potential trades with Detroit and all this kinds of stuff. But ultimately, we knew there was a very, very good chance that we were going to take Zach Wilson. How did you feel about the compensation that the Jets gave up for AVT, even though you were able to get your dream scenario in the first round? How did you feel about how much we paid?
As a draft freak, I want to make that clear before I give my answer, is I love draft picks. The more the merrier. I love the draft. It's like Christmas for me. So the draft is phenomenal. When they traded up, as soon as I saw they traded up and no compensation fell on the board, I'm like, you can take my grandma, you can take whoever you want. If that's AVT, it was worth it. So to me, while it was obviously rich, because 66 and 86, I mean, in draft terminology, those are premium picks. First round pick is premium. Second round pick is premium. Third round pick are premium. In a normal situation, again, the Jets haven't drafted great, but in normal NFL rosters, those first 3 rounds are starters. So in theory, the Jets gave away 2 starters of guys, and there were guys on the board I loved. I fought Melifonwu out of Syracuse. I'm like, oh man, 66 or 86, that's going to happen. Jets have a need for corner. Those are guys I like, and ultimately, obviously, they sacrificed it. So to answer the question bluntly, I thought it was rich, but at the end of the day, there was never a thought through my head, oh boy, gave up a little too much there. This is why the Jets went in this position. Joe Douglas had the luxury at any point to say, you know what? We got extra pieces. YOLO, move up. And so while it was rich, according to the draft value chart, the nerd in the back of the room is going to go, well, excuse me, technically, I'm not really sure. There's an extra third. And, so what? Sometimes the draft value chart you're going to throw out the window. That's what the Jets did. And to get an impact player, and this is the one thing I'll say, and then we can move on, is that in a draft that someone texted me is saying this is unknown. We had the opposite from this year to last year. Last year, we had the combine but no pro days. This year, we had no combine but a bunch of pro days. They said this is one of the most unknown drafts they've done. The guy that texted me has been in the league for 30 years. He said this is the most unknown draft in 30 years. 30 years! And he said that, hey, if you can trade up for a known guy, you could get someone you know, as opposed to in a draft that's pretty unknown, and you're throwing darts in the third round, as opposed to when you'd be throwing darts later. He said, hey, I mean, if that's what you're going to do, that's what you're going to do. And to me, I agreed full front. I'm like, hey, man, you got, in the Jets say it, you got to believe what they say. AVT was a top 10 player on their board. If they believe he's a top 10 player on this board at a critical position need, I'm going to trust the powers that are be, then in this case, they're Joe Douglas. So that's what I'm going to trust, the known in this draft, which was unknown.
Yeah, that's such a great answer, man, because it's so funny. I share the exact same mindset going into the draft. I get made fun of all the time. It's like Green Bean can't have enough picks. Like I would trade. I start looking at, hey, who else can I trade for a mid-6th? Like I start looking for that stuff. So when it was first happened, that exact second, I was like, both thirds. Then we found out we got an extra 4th, and that calmed me down. But again, it's the player. Nobody is talking about the 2nd round pick or the 3rd round pick we gave up in the Revis trade. Nobody mentions it. And that's the kind of thing he's not Revis. He's nobody yet. But just like you said, there's much more known about AVT's potential than there is about guys in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round and on. So I ultimately think the move is fantastic, and I like what Joe Douglas is doing. And now we'll fast forward a little bit. With the OTAs and minicamp, what's your favorite thing that you're hearing? The thing that, as a Jets fan now, gets you the most psyched up, the thing that you're most excited coming out of the OTA and minicamp period that we've just had?
Man, how can it not be Denzel Mims running with the 2s, right?
I love it.
That's to rub people up. And I saw you did a great video on Rich Cimini with the clown hat. That wasn't for that comment, that was for the whole Corey Davis thing. But a very fitting thing, certainly, is Rich Cimini's comment, and he made it about Denzel Mims. And the comment that he said was that Denzel Mims isn't even among the best 5 receivers right now on the roster. And I had to stop myself and said, what in God's green earth? And Alan, I think we're talking about practice, man. For Pete's sake, practice. Let's slap some pads at old Denzel and see what happens. So I saw that from Samina. I'm going to spit out my drink. So I know we're trying to talk about a positive here, but just as a fan,
at least I'm not alone. At least I'm not alone in my feelings, man. Sometimes I ask myself, am I like do I have a wound here that's too sensitive with some of these guys? But it's like you can see a conscious, it's almost like an attempt to try to get you upset. It's such ridiculousness, isn't it? What a statement to make about Denzel Mims.
Again, I thought it was just, hyperbolic, over the top. We're talking about May here, and to make that kind of comment to me, again, it's just borderline ridiculous. So, but the good thing that I would say is some of the players that popped that I didn't anticipate. That's the best part of OTAs for me, and also why, we'll get into this later, I'm sure. I'm a fan of the preseason. Now, other people want to abolish the preseason and make it another amendment. I love the preseason. I love seeing Jet player, like other people are like, boring. I'm on the edge of my seat watching preseason.
Me too.
I love watching the battle of who's jumping into the roster, who's a practice squad guy for the Jets, who's making it, the intricacies of the game. So I love that kind of stuff. So for me, the guy that I think has gone from, and there was a great story from DJ Bieneme today on him, so it's going to steal a little bit of the thunder here. But to me, Isaiah Dunn going from priority free agent, undrafted free agent, to me, I think he could be starting week 1. And that's a wild, I know that's a very bold thing to say. Quite frankly, I don't think it says much about the competition at corner, but on the other side, I just think he's been very impressive. I think the roster spot outside of something insane like an injury or something, I think he's going to make the roster. I think it's a lock, and I know that's, again, crazy to say here on July 2nd. But, man, he's been super impressive, and I think he could start. I think that's the bold thing. But there have been a couple of players, like JT Hassel. Does anybody even know who that is? Like, JT Hassel to me. And he hasn't been tweeted out about, at all. And he's a guy that I'm like, let me write that one on the note. A safety prospect, and we'll see what happens with, everything else. But, man, some of the players that have popped, to me, that's the one where I get excited about, say, can't wait to see that guy in training camp. Can't wait to see that guy get preseason chances like a lot of players didn't last year.
Yeah. What an interesting thing, right, with Isaiah Dunn. Like you said, he was a priority free agent. Turned out he was given the highest undrafted free agent contract in the history of the undrafted free agent classes with, for a cornerback. So that's all great. Obviously, they really wanted to get him into camp. But the fact that he's in camp as an undrafted free agent, just because we gave him the $180,000 doesn't mean that he's going to suddenly be, launched into the starting lineup. But it looks like his play is actually starting to make him a candidate for at least the competition. Like you said, it's early, it's June, they're in shorts, but at least he's being looked at. And guys like Bryce Hall, who I absolutely love, he probably has a starting position, but the rest of them, Blesson Austin, Jason Pinnock, Eccles, Michael Carter II, all these guys that we have, it really is a crapshoot. We don't know best guy stand up. Best guy stand up, put on your helmet and run on the field. And I like that this regime comes from a background of playing young guys, playing unproven guys, to see what they have rather than trying to see them reach a certain plateau in practice and then put them out. Their background is such that they will play the young guys and let them take their lumps. How do you feel about that? You think that's smart, or is that you think that's a little bit throwing, a little bit too much wood in the fire for these guys?
I'd say it's ballsy. I'll give it to Saleh in particular as the guy that anytime media's been like, excuse me, maybe a veteran corner, or excuse me, maybe a veteran quarterback, perhaps. He's like, shut up. More reps for Zach Wilson, the young guys. So while I disagree overall with the take, I think, first off, I think it's risky to just say, YOLO, James Morgan, Mike White, and then if something breaks later, we'll figure it out. That's a dangerous game to play when you're 0-10, when a backup quarterback has had to step in the last 10 times out. So that's ballsy. But my bigger thing is with the cornerback situation. I am as big of a fan as Bryce Hall as you. I think he's a starter. Everything else is written in pencil. And, to me, again, if I was running the ship, I'd be like, hello, Richard Sherman, line 1, please. I would try to just see. But, again, I respect the ballsiness of it. And let's see what happens. Obviously, with these roster cuts, at any point, Joe Douglas has been willing to flip over rocks, whether it's by trade, whether it's by signing, whether it's by convincing retired players off the couch. That one didn't really work, but I respect the creativity. So we'll see what happens when we get closer to preseason. But you got to love, for the young guys, they're going to get their chance. They're going to get whacks in the training camp and in preseason to show their chutzpah. And if Saleh and them are right, then, man, you not only save money and resources, but you put faith in your young guys and they rewarded you for it. What better coaching is that?
Yeah, I could not agree more. And it's a little scary, especially with our particular background, with injuries and like the bottom falling out when a starter goes down, having nothing behind him, having to, 3 days before the game, sign an undrafted free, not an undrafted, but a free agent or off somebody's practice squad. They come here for 2 days and they're starting or something like that. We've seen that way too many times, so it can be scary. Let me ask you, if you could only sign one backup quarterback or cornerback for this particular team at this particular moment?
Okay, I'm somewhat biased here because I did just write an article as a Captain James Morgan fan. So with that in mind, I said there's an alternate reality where there's some way that maybe James Morgan, this guy that – is there a bigger mystery on the roster than James Morgan? I mean, everyone is crapped on him because either he's an Adam Gase guy or, he was inactive all of last year or what have you, but we don't know what he is. I mean, he could suck. I don't know, but let's see him in preseason. Let's see what he's got. So, I mean, there's no one rooting harder for him and his family than Joe Douglas going, yeah, let's let another draft pick work out. He's 24 years old. If he could be the long-term backup, that's exactly what you drafted him for. So I will live in that alternate world where people will call me a cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. I would go corner, and whether that's Sherman, because I know the Sherman thing has been overblown somewhat with coming over to the East and playing for a contender. I just feel like Saleh goes to him. Look what Sherman said at the end of last year as he just pounded the table for Saleh. To me, I closed my eyes and got visions of Richard Sherman in the locker room. If the Jets at some point are going through some rocky, choppy waters next year, and Sherman's like, Saleh's our guy. And I'm ready to run through a wall. I'm like, yes, let's go. And I gave this Game of Thrones Red Priestesses kind of conversation on the podcast this week when people asked about it. And I said, having those kind of guys in the locker room, because in my, again, I only played high school football. Would love to play college in the NFL, but that never happened. But in high school, when we ever went through rocky waters, the leaders in the locker room rallied the troops, brought us all together, and said, we got to believe in the message, boys. We need to buy in. And then that, to me, those were pivot points in our season. That's pivot points in life. I think Sherman could be that kind of guy. On top of the fact, I think he's still got plenty left in the tank. So if I only had one, it'd be Sherman.
It'd be Richard Sherman. But you are so right. I mean, even aside from his on the field, his play, where his value would really come in is when there is a little moment of trial. Richard Sherman there to support the regime, the coach, the man, and what he can do would pay dividends that are unforeseen. And that's the real value of a Richard Sherman. What do you think about Brian Poole? What do you think's going on out there? Why did no one else sign this guy? I mean, clearly Ulbricht isn't in love with him. I mean, they let him walk from Atlanta. He's here with the Jets for 2 years. Last year, he signed that 1 year, $5 million contract, which I think was a lot less than a lot of people thought it was going to be. It was less than I thought that he was going to get. He's the 13th overall cornerback in the NFL with yards against. He's the top 3 slot corner. What is the deal from your perspective? And do you see the Jets having any interest in him moving forward?
I'm going to be honest. I am flabbergasted. The stats speak for themselves. Why is Brian Poole not a Jet? Or quite frankly, why is he not a member of any one of the other 31 NFL teams? Again, I think Rex Ryan is the one who said it a long time ago. You can never have enough cornerbacks. He's right in this passing league, and he's even more right now than he was back then with the evolution of the game. But, Brian Poole is a very good player. And as far as everything I've ever heard, he's a great locker room guy too. And so to me, it's confounding. It's befuddling. It's any combination of phrases I could come up with. It's shocking. The thing I would say, though, is we're going to go with that Saleh thing where he's going to roll the dice on Javelin Guidry, Michael Carter II, and maybe if Eccles, he's an outside corner, but maybe they'll transition him to the slot with his size. I'm not sure if that's their plan. and roll it with them. And if it's epically terrible, like, somehow in preseason, they're like, Jesus Christ, Brian Poole, get him on speed dial. Maybe that's the plan, and maybe they're being hesitant. But again, that's a risky play because any other team can also call Poole or any of these free agents at any time. That's scary. But why is Poole a free agent? Your guess is as good as mine. It makes absolutely no sense. He's a terrific player.
Yeah, it really is. And I was talking to somebody yesterday, and they said that there were some rumblings that maybe he had some issues personally with some of the players that are on the roster. I haven't heard that, but that's what somebody told me. So I don't know. But yeah, I feel like, it's just an interesting one. And maybe he's just pricing himself out of the market. He's like, hey, I'm a top 3 slot guy. And maybe he's done playing for teams that aren't winners. Maybe he's just done. He's like 50% of the NFL. I'm not touching. I don't care. I'll sit out for 6 months. I'm not doing it again. That sucked playing for Adam Gase. So look, we had the OTAs, we had the mini camp. We heard good things. We heard Elijah Moore looks good. Zach Wilson looks good. The one concern, look, you mentioned the Mims thing. I think that's more, much to do with nothing. And quite frankly, if the coaching staff is just making him earn his spot, all the better. All the better. Nobody's spot is handed to them. I like that. But the one potentially legitimate concern is Mekhi Becton's feet and his weight and his diet. And if Saleh even came out and said, hey, we're working on, making sure that this guy knows how to have a long career as opposed to burning out really fast. What do you think of this whole thing? Are you concerned? And if you aren't, please let me know why. You could take some stress off of me. And if you are, maybe, whatever way you're on, if you could paint that picture for us so we could understand from somebody who has a pretty good frame of reference here.
Absolutely. And I'll be honest, I was hoping to feel better by the time we spoke. I'll give you the behind the scenes. I don't know, I don't know if people who do interviews normally do this. I normally don't because I have a horrible story about talking about interviews you don't have yet. Interviews you're working on behind the scenes, you're trying to schedule it, but for one reason or another, you can't lock the interview in. Now they're on vacation. They got something going on. Okay, all right, let's keep rescheduling this. So I have a horrible story about that. Of one time I pre-promoted an interview, guys, check out the channel, gonna have this guy on, it's gonna be great. And then they tune in, I'm like, oh, he actually said that he couldn't. And then his agent goes, maybe next time, don't promote it before you got it there, chump. And then I have that story before, and I was like, oh, okay. So maybe I shouldn't do this. But nonetheless, I'll let you guys in on an interview I've been working on for a while. There's all these politics going on behind the scenes of how it's been tripped up from here to there. Stefania Bell of ESPN is like the go-to medical expert on everything. And my first question I pre-prepared, because we thought we had the interview last week, then something happened. My first interview was, okay, this plantar fasciitis thing, which is what Mekhi Becton is dealing with. Is it a fat guy problem? Can anybody get plantar fasciitis? What's the deal here? And unfortunately, I was not able to ask the expert that question in all my line of questioning. So I did some research on my own, and really anybody can get this plantar fasciitis. But I'll be honest, I claim to be the most optimistic Jets fan on the planet. So with that being said, take this for what you will. I'm concerned about it. How can you not be? Okay?
Right.
Foot problems can happen to anybody, but when you've got that body, that is, he's like, I'm not sure how much I weigh. Okay, Mekhi, whatever, man. So he's like he's in the ballpark of 360 to 375 pounds. That's a lot of man. And then the foot thing, it's hard for me not to, and especially Jet fans in general. I believe the 99% of them are a pessimistic bunch. So, when you get this budding star, you almost can't pinch yourself because it can't be real. The Jets couldn't have gotten the third offensive tackle out of the big four, and he's a superstar. That doesn't make sense. And he battled injuries last year. So, for me, it is super concerning. But the one thing that will alleviate my concerns is, 3 weeks and change. If we go to training camp, Mekhi's running out of the tunnel, I'm like, phenomenal. Because that's what they've told us. They told the media this. They've told the fans this. Mekhi Becton will be ready for the start of training camp. And if he rolls out, maybe I'll feel great. But seeing him in preseason, seeing him in padded practices, actually going through football activities, that will make me feel a lot better. But from everything I understand, this plantar fasciitis thing is a serious thing. Not serious like it's going to prevent him from doing things. Just it in itself is a serious thing. And when you have weight, it only, compounds the issue. So yes, concern me. And the thing that makes me feel a little bit better is Morgan Moses. Having him, having George Fant, having that security just in case something goes wrong. Because if not, who is it? Connor McDermott? Chuma
I
Edoga?
know, right, man?
Yikes, man.
Yeah, yikes. Right, yikes indeed. And it's an interesting thing with the Morgan Moses signing, right? Because I don't think that they brought him in specifically as a backup for, as what's the word I'm looking for? Insurance? For Mekhi Becton. Yeah, but I do think having him here provides that nonetheless, no matter what they're thinking.
Sure.
And I would have added him anyway. And it does the word that we're starting to see in more and more positional groups is depth. And we're not used to that around here. We're not used to having legitimate depth, 2, 3, 4, 5 deep in a position. Even with running backs and wide receivers, we're going to have to make some tough decisions coming up. But just to go back to your concern about Mekhi Becton, do you feel any better with the complete overhaul of that Joe Douglas did with our medical training, nutritional departments with Dr. DeWeese, and he added 3 other doctors in addition to Dr. DeWeese? Does that help you at all, or we don't know enough about what they're actually going to do to feel one way or the other about the new changes to our medical departments?
I am a sheep that is willing to put the wool over my face. I'm willing to pull it over my own face because Robert Saleh, he interestingly described it about basically recreating the entire department and making a specialized sports and nutrition where guys come in, and this is routine for any player that comes in. They come in through that part of the wing first. They get a plan for nutrition, dietary, everything they should be doing, workouts they should be doing. Adam Gase and all the Kelechi Osemele and all those kind of problems that existed in the organization to then, credit to Joe Douglas, credit to Robert Saleh. Obviously, it was very important to him. It's similar to Urban Meyer when he got hired by Jacksonville. He said, I'm not coming unless you completely redo the facilities. Now, I don't know if there was an ultimatum by Saleh for that, but it just showed that was super important to him as a part of the process, both on the field and off the field. So to me, yes, right. That 100% changes the narrative. Now, of course, at this point, it's just talk, and it sounds really nice, but we need to see it in actuality. We need to see it in practicality and actually seeing these guys go through this and then look at the analytics and see if the numbers have changed and adapted based on the situation. But sure, right, them creating that, them seemingly trying to take it serious and doing everything in their power to change that narrative, that 100% helps, and I got to imagine that is going to. But that one solid comment that does create a little fear. Samini may have blown it out of proportion, but the solid comment of saying, it seemed like he took a subtle jab at Becton's weight. Maybe he wasn't taking it as serious. While Samini ran with that and a lot of people went crazy, if you really hone in on Saleh's comment, it does seem like he went out of his way to say, we all got to take care of our bodies, right, Mekhi? It was just whoa.
Yeah.
It seemed apparent.
I think that's exactly what he did. And what look, we're still trying to get to know Robert Saleh as a head coach. We know his ability to motivate people for his players. They love him. They get rah-rah. He's all energetic. He needs a get-back coach. This is all so great and exciting. But when guys become head coaches, it's a whole different tier of responsibility, and their personality needs to evolve and develop with that. So guys like Parcells, not that it would be okay today, but calling players she'll be okay, things like that. Or when he said, I forget who was the player, Irv Eatman, I think, was our defensive end, and he was injured, and Parcells said he'll be fine. I think he just has the Ogden flu. And that because we were playing the Ravens that week, and he's just a little bit scared. But comments like that tend to motivate people. So when we hear these things from Robert Saleh, he doesn't seem like he's going to take the same route as a Parcells or somebody like that. But what are his motivating tactics? How does he operate to get guys to start to think themselves and actually step beyond their normal routines, or what their go above their normal work ethic to be the stars that they can be? And my whole thing is, I think it's nice, while it is an issue, it's nice to see that they're actually paying attention to this and making comments about it now, not week 3. You know what I mean? Week
Right.
3 into the season. Oh yeah, I guess we've been looking at that, and I think we should work on it. It's like, no, man. We're in OTAs. He's been here for 45 minutes, and he's fat, and we got to talk about that. He's too heavy. He's 35 pounds overweight, and his feet hurt. Plantar fasciitis. I actually have it, so I've suffered with plantar fasciitis. So, but I don't suffer from it anymore. But it's like, because I know how to fix it. But anyway, it could be very painful, Paul.
Can you send those tips and tricks to Mekhi Becton, please?
I tried. I tried. You know what? The thing that worked for me, I tried 10 different things. It was a $19.95 boot that you wore in bed. You woke up, and 2 days later, it was gone. And that's really it. That's what it said would happen, and that's what happened. Anyway.
Okay, so that's the thing. One of those. Huh?
Yeah, that's all it takes, man. What do we need all these doctors for? So, but it can be scary because, like you said, and you really nailed it, man. It's not so much we have the depth. We don't have to worry so much about the play and Zach Wilson because we do have some insurance. But wouldn't it be nice if Joe Douglas found the jewel? Like, can it please be us? Like, there were 4 premium tackles, really 5 if you added Isaiah Wilson, who's already out of the league. But if, 4 top-tier tackles, and he makes a judgment call, leaves Wirfs on the board, takes Mekhi Becton, wouldn't it be nice for him to be the guy who goes to the Hall of Fame? Wouldn't that be nice for once to be us beyond everything else? It would be nice for us to get the guy. So I get it, man. And it is concerning. I'm not as concerned as maybe some others, but in the back of my mind, it's like, this guy better not be falling apart in year 2 already, man. He better I want a 10-year career out of this guy. That's what I want. You know what I mean?
If you want a 10-year career, you better get the busted can ready.
Yeah. Right. If he makes it 10 years, yeah, it's there, and his aggressive nature is there. The way he plays is right up my alley, man. Like, even though how much I loved DeBrickashaw Ferguson, he was never that continue to drive him into the ground guy, and that's fine. He was great, but I do love that little bit of an edge. Like, let the guy remember that you were the guy he was going against this week, so when he comes back, he knows, oh, I'm going to get beat up today. Like, that's Mekhi Becton. And I just want him to make it so bad. I do, man.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. As far as, look, we've had some time now, the draft, the OTAs, mini camp. We've seen our schedule. We've had some time to process it. Realistically, man, maybe, you're allowed to wear your green colored glasses for this question. But realistically, there they are. What do you think? What do you think our potential for a record? Like, what do you think our record will be this year? Where do you think it can go? Give me a top and bottom end, if you could.
Absolutely. And again, to me, I'm optimistic, but I want to keep that in mind and what I mean by that, just to explain to people. So I know some people will go into a week and be like, man, there are fans and I know some Jet fans around here that do this. They go to a game, we got no chance, we're going to lose. I've never had that mentality in my life. I go to a game and I can come up with, and I don't know if that's the former player and some coach in me where I'm like, man, if we do this, and do this, we can win, man. We can win. Yeah. And I do that every week. Now, I realized before the season we're not going 16-0 and now in the new world 17-0. But every week I'm like, you know what? If all of these things happen, it can happen. So with that being said, as I looked at the schedule, and the big thing I look at is I don't look at the strength of schedule from I look at it, the strength of schedule from last year, but that's last year. The big things I look at when I see a schedule, besides weather games and back-to-back road games and some of that action, I look at the quarterbacks. Who are the quarterbacks they're playing? And by the way, you know that well before with just the opponents, but especially when you get to see them in order. And I'm like, okay, Josh Allen, you got to give the respect. I did this to a recent Bills group on Twitter, and I took the L, and I'll take it again here. I'll take it anywhere. I'm man enough. I can do it. I was wrong on Josh Allen. I didn't think he could hit water if he fell out of a boat, and to be honest, he couldn't in college. But you know what? Yeah. At this level, he's done it. The Bills, they deserve all the credit in the world for the blueprint they put around him. The Jets should, talking about Spygate, get a camera in on whatever the Bills did for their quarterback because they did it right. So all the props in the world to Josh Allen of that. But so we have to give respect where it's due, and I know a lot of Jet fans don't want to do that for Josh Allen. Josh Allen's very good. He played at an MVP caliber level last year. Let's see what he does next year when defenses are more prepared for him. But regardless, you have Josh Allen, you got Tom Brady, you got Ryan Tannehill. You can put him where you want. when I look at that, I then say to myself, can we do this? Yes. The record, to give you put a number on it, I believe, and we got to get used to this too, 9-8. I think
that's so weird.
Is 10. So what is that? 10-7, 9-8. I think that's the ceiling. I think I could see things going right. Zach Wilson progresses faster than we think. I think the pass rush is going to be very good. We'll see how good. Is it top 15? Is it top 10? I heard some guy yesterday on a podcast I did yesterday said top 5. If it's top 5 good, then sure. The world is the oyster. It doesn't matter. Me and you are Green Bean and Boy Green are lining up at corner. It's going to be Revis Crow. It's going to be Boy Green, Green Bean.
Yeah, there you go.
And if we got that pass rusher in front, we'll be able to figure it out. So, to me, I think that's a ceiling. And to be honest, I think that's realistic. And I know a lot of Jet fans don't want to use these words, but I am more than willing to use the words playoff and Jets in the same sentence without can't, won't, don't, shouldn't, isn't. Because think about it. There are 7 teams that make it from each side. There are 16 teams in each conference. Now, I was always terrible at math, but that's basically 48% of the conference makes it. You're telling me the Jets can't get to average in the conference? If you get to average,
right,
you're in the conversation. So I think it's possible. So, floor, I mean, really, the floor is based on Zach Wilson to me, because if at all he gets injured, and by the way, I don't know if you know this, here's a little trivia. Green Bean, I don't know if you ever asked trivia on this show, but let me ask you.
I'm not. This is exciting. I'm nervous.
Okay. When's the last time the Jets had a quarterback who started an entire 16-game regular season? When's the last time the Jets had a quarterback that did that?
Let's see. Wouldn't that be Mark Sanchez? Didn't he do that in 2010?
He did, but there was someone more recent. That's Ryan Fitzpatrick in 2015. Now, he also got banged up in one of those games. He still started the game, but Geno Smith.
Did he start?
Yeah,
I think Geno
started, but he got banged up. So Geno ended up just playing in the rest of that Raiders game. But either way, the point is that quarterback injuries happen a lot. And now that the season expanding even more, it's more likely or not to happen. That affects it, of course, because right now, James Morgan or Mike White's coming in there. Yike-a-rooney. So that is the floor. The floor is bottomless. I mean, I don't think there's something that we can safely rely on. So I'll just leave it at the ceiling, because I think 9-10 wins is possible. Again, what is that? Again, 10-7 and 9-8. It'll take me a while to get used to that, but like that to me is the ceiling, and that's a realistic ceiling for this team.
Yeah, I love it, man. We were on a live stream last week, and we just went through the schedule, and I tried to be as objective as I could. I was just more so than usual, and we still came up with 12-5. I was like, 12 wins. Had to do it 3 times. I'm like, is that really what we said? Really? Yeah. Try to do it week by week and see what the realistic potential is to beat a team. Look, there are some teams that are clearly better than us, but I really do believe, man, that we have compiled a collection of individuals that if this coach can make this a cohesive unit, even just in the infancy stages, we have a very realistic chance to do exactly what you're saying, which is be in the playoff conversation. And man, after the last decade of football, 2015 aside, that would be all I really ask for. Honestly, I just want competitive football. I don't want to know the season is over by the second drive in week 1. I don't want to feel that way in my heart. You know what I mean? Yeah. So let me ask you this, and then I'm going to thank you for your time and let you go. The thing that you're most excited to see this year, outside of the whole games and all that, is your focus really honed in on one particular player, one particular group, or anything like that? What is it that you're most excited to see this season?
Man, I want to give you 45 answers to this question. Boy, there's so many things I want to do. It just, I'll throw a couple out there, but I'm only ultimately going to commit to one. But I will say a bunch of things. But I won't dive in. Like weak side linebacker, who wins that? I'm intrigued by. I'm intrigued by can Salah? Is he a man of his word? Is the cat? Well, what is it? Can his mouth right? The check is cashed. I'm doing the Tommy Boy T-bone up the butcher's ass thing. I'm messing that up. But anyway, So,
Yeah, right.
does the edge rush live up to the billing? Is Robert, because we haven't seen an edge rush in God knows how long. So is Robert Sala going to come up here and go zippity doopity bop, and then boom, we got pass rush, Carl Lawson, Quinton Williams, Sheldon Rankin, Sweet Mama Jambalaya, phenomenal. So I'm intrigued by all of that. I'm intrigued, quite frankly, for 100% full capacity stadiums. All NFL teams will be having it this fall. So I want to go to a Jets game. I want to be there with the fans and go all wild and crazy. But if I had to pick one thing, and I had a gun to my head, of course, the Zach Wilson thing is intriguing. The thing I want to see that lives up to the hype is Elijah Moore. And, as a Jets guy, with second-round busts like Stephen Hill and Devin Smith and all this ugliness. Like, the Jets haven't had a homegrown, and I'm pretty sure this is still accurate, I don't think they've had a homegrown Pro Bowler since Keyshawn Johnson. Like, good Lord, man. Not this century. Like, let's make something real? That's wild.
That real? I don't even know if I'd never thought about that. Is that a real stat?
Yes, I believe it is. I believe a homegrown. And what I mean by homegrown is the guy that you drafted. Like, we had Brandon Marshall and that pop in 2015, but they were mercenaries. They were acquired.
Yeah, mercenaries.
Great, but they were mercenaries. Like, who was a homegrown guy we drafted? It was an offensive Pro Bowler. I'm going to be honest. I can't name one. I think it's Keyshawn Johnson. I think that's a stat that I heard, a couple years ago, and obviously nothing's changed since. So, and that to me is disgusting. So Elijah Moore, I'm hearing everything about. And, I feel like I want to get on Madden right now because I'm going to put Moore all over the field. I think that's what Mike LaFleur is going to do. I want to see him. Does he live up to the hype? We're seeing all these crazy catches in practice, but again, the Jets corners suck. We've talked about that. So,
right.
Maybe, again, we could be making plays on these corners. I don't know. So the fact of the matter is I'm intrigued by Elijah Moore. That connection to connection, man. If we can get a Zach Wilson, Elijah Moore rookie, they bond and grow together. Like, we talk about all these wonderful combinations in NFL history. The fact of the matter is we haven't had one or the other in any consistent time. To possibly have both at the same time is like we've won the Jets lottery. That's what I'm looking forward to. Again, I have 1,000 answers to your question, but, we'd be here all day.
Yeah, totally. Oh, I get it. And so I want to see the one thing. I know I go back and forth. I think if it boils down for me, and there was the first thing you mentioned, for me, it's pass rush. Jeff Ulbricht's comments on Flight 2021 with Carl Lawson's going to get more sacks because quarterbacks run into the pocket away from him. Yeah. And with our interior line, there's not going to be a pocket. Dude, there's few things that can be said in a way that get to my soul, to the core of who I am, quicker than a comment like that, man. That went right in. I want to get somebody. I want to go out in the mud and play football right now.
It was all of that. Where he said they were going to feed each other, and I'm just like, feed them. Feed them. Yes. Like, that was music to my ears, man.
Yeah, it's so good. So, Paul, Boy Green, before you go, why don't you tell everybody, I know you got that new writing gig that you're all excited about. It's heavy.com, right?
That's right. It's heavy.com.
Right. So, why don't you give us a full rundown of where everybody can find you, what you got going on, and if you have any events or anything that you want to try to promote, by all means, now is the time.
Excellent. All right. So your boy is now, and to some people, they're going to be like, oh, what does that mean? On the old Twitter, here we go. So over here, Boy Green25 everywhere. So Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and now I'm officially verified on Twitter. So that means I'm a big deal now, according to the old Twitter guys, the old blue check. Right. I'm official now. So I saw that earlier this week. So sweet. Apparently I'm all big and famous now. Wonderful. That's good to hear. So Boy Green25 everywhere. And I try to bring a little something different. You can hear my podcast every Wednesday, The Jet Zone. It's been something I've had for like the last decade or so. And that's been a baby of mine forever. That was the first Jets thing I've ever had where I just kind of created on my own. And I love that. I've been doing that every Wednesday for, again, like the last decade or so. That's great. YouTube, I just started in September. That to me is one of the funnest things I've ever done, man. It's just cool to do interviews with different people. We had Sam Fortier on the show, I think it was last week or the week before. He's the guy who broke the Morgan Moses story. And it's just cool to hear details. He was like, here's a nugget. The Denver Broncos apparently were in on the Morgan Moses thing. I heard that from no one else. And he shared that. Wow. I was like, whoa, that's cool. And he told this great Morgan Moses story about how he's a great guy on and off the field. He gathered all his guys during COVID, and he built like an NFL facility in his backyard to host all his players. Right. That was cool. So, like, To me, so the YouTube thing has been awesome. It's been awesome to talk to all kinds of cool people and just to get together and get get along with more Jet fans and get to know more people. And I'm trying to expand and get to get along and get to know more Jet fans as all possible. So I'm on all social media. I love doing it, man. And this has been a blast, an absolute blast. I'm so humbled that you invited me on here, Green Bean.
Yeah, well, I feel the same way, if not more so. Your YouTube page is at BoyGreen25 as well?
Yes, sir. So, yeah, apparently there's some rule on YouTube. You got to get to 100 subscribers, and you get the old YouTube. So, yeah, it's easy. It's youtube.com/BoyGreen25, BOY, green the color 25. You can catch all my interviews and all the craziness, mock drafts during that time of year and everything else. It's a lot of fun.
That's awesome. So again, Paul, thank you. Guys, I mean this sincerely. I've been listening to Boy Green for a long time. He's without question one of my absolute favorites. The fact that he's here with me, I know he's being nice to me right now, but the truth is I've been looking up to this guy for a very, very long time. And this is something that I've been very excited to do. And Paul, you did not disappoint, and I'm thankful for having you. And I wish you well moving forward. I look forward to the next time that we can get together, my friend.
And hopefully it doesn't take 30 years to come together again. Yeah. Finally, we were together. It happened, fans. It happened. Green Bean, green.
That's it. All right, Paul. Thank you, man. You have a great day.
Appreciate it. Thanks, brother.
All right, guys, so that's just going to about do it for this week's Green Beans Jets pod. Again, I want to ask you to please consider to like and subscribe to this video. Don't forget to head over to Jetnation.com where the Jets talk never sleeps. Jetnation's YouTube page where my show On the Road with Green Bean lives. And if you want to find out a little bit more about what Green Bean's life is like, you want to see what I'm really doing out here traveling around the country, don't forget to stop by Full-Time Coaster Tour on YouTube and like and subscribe over there. We just put out our Knobles video. But guys, I couldn't appreciate you more. Thank you. Again, happy 4th of July, everybody. I hope your fingers are still intact. I don't say that lightly. I mean it. Many times my fingers, I got in danger, my firecracker in my ear, stuff like that. It can get rough out there. I hope you're all being safe. I appreciate you being here. Thanks for watching, everybody. And as always, go Jets.